Good evening. It is now 6:30, and I will call the Monday, October 24th, 2016 Burnsville Planning Commission to order. Commissioners, thanks for your time this evening. Staff, thank you very much for driving, or staying, sorry. Thanks. Our first item on the agenda this evening is actually the adoption of the posted agenda. Commissioners, does anyone have any adjustments or comments about the agenda? None from commissioners? They're all pretty quiet this evening.
None from staff?
Staff, we have no additions to the agenda. With that said, I would stand for a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Behnke.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Workman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Our second item this evening is approval of the minutes from the October 10th, 2016 Planning Commission. Commissioners, do you have any questions in reference to the minutes? None from commissioners. We're a quiet group this evening. Staff, any changes to the minutes?
No changes.
No changes. Commissioners, I would stand for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Commissioner Singh, second by
Second.
Commissioner Workman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And
I didn't see it.
Steve, oh, okay. Steve, we had one abstain.
Abstention.
Yep.
Okay, this brings us to the third item on our agenda this evening. And this is a public hearing. It's the application for Soccer Blast, Inc. for a planned unit development PUD amendment to allow for a temporary fabric dome at 3601 145th Street West. Ms. Garros is presenting this evening. Welcome back, Ms. Garros. We did miss you at the last meeting. No comment.
Thank you.
You have the floor and our undivided attention.
Divided attention. For the commissioners and the audience and people at home, the application before you is Soccer Blast. This is an application that the city has seen in multiple versions over the years. The application is specifically for a planned unit development amendment, and that is to allow the fabric dome to be used for another season through the 2016-2017 winter season. The Soccer Blast facility is located south of County Road 42 and just to the west of Burnsville Parkway. The property is zoned I3 PUD, which is our office and industrial park planned unit development. The other properties, except to the south, are all I3 office and industrial, and then we've got the manufactured home park to the south, which is zoned and guided as manufactured home park R3D. On the overhead shows the existing building, and also to the right is the soccer field when there is not a dome. And this summer, the dome was deflated. The applicant anticipated coming in and actually starting construction on a new building. There was a PUD amendment approved a couple of years ago for the new building. And the applicant has a building permit that is in and has been approved. They've just not yet come in to pick that up. And Ms. Tanis Carter is here this evening and can advise the commissioners as to what the situation is, but is having difficulty in getting the final approvals needed to start construction. So the need is to have the facility open as early as possible in November. When we received the application, we did fast track it to the extent that we could. If the Planning Commission recommends approval this evening, the item would go to the City Council at their November 7th meeting for a decision. And then the applicant could proceed following that. This is just an aerial photo further back to give a bigger area picture. To the very north is County Road 42. And then you can see the manufactured home parks both to the south and southeast. In the actual Soccer Blast facility, the existing building was constructed back in 1999. In 2004, the applicant came in and requested a fabric dome. And the dome was intended to be used on a temporary basis, approved for a period of 6 years, and then with the possibility of extending it for an additional 4 years, so a total of 10 years. And then, as I had indicated a couple of years ago, we did approve, I believe back in 2015, the proposal for the building. This graphic shows on the very south what the building would look like from the north, facing to the south. And the approval for the PUD gives that a fabric roof, but it's not the actual dome. So they would be constructing a building and anticipate doing that, but for this final approval that they need before they can start the construction. When we were out taking photographs for the public hearing sign, they were just starting to work with the dome. They do every year do some maintenance on the dome just to make sure that it is going to work for their entire season. When this was taken, as I indicated, the dome had been left outside because the intent was that it would not be needed again. Usually in the past, it has been a condition of the former PUD approvals to have the dome either removed from the site or stored indoors at the site. And that did not occur this year because they anticipated having being under construction by now. Since the planning report went out to the commissioners and was published, the applicant has been able to work on the dome. They did do a power wash of the dome. So these are pictures that the applicant just took this evening to give you an idea of what the dome facility looks like, which is much better than it had that previous date before it had been washed off. With that, the application, from a staff perspective, this was always intended to be temporary, and our recommendation remains the same as to that it served its useful life, and staff is recommending denial of this use. However, with the new information that the applicant has brought in with the updated pictures and information, if the Planning Commission would like to recommend approval of the project, we do also have the same conditions of approval that have been approved in the past for use of the temporary dome for another season. With that, I can stand for questions, and I know that Ms. Tanis is here and can address the Planning Commission as well.
Thank you, Ms. Garros. Can you, since we don't have that in our background, can you leave that up? Or we'll get back to that, I guess.
Sure.
Commissioners, questions for staff? No one?
Sure.
Commissioner Behnke.
Deb, has there been any enforcement action started because it was out all summer?
No, there has not, and the reason being is they do have their building permit, which was approved. So we're just anticipating that this was going to begin construction. So there is not an active code violation on this site.
Okay, and then from the technical side, typically building permits can go stale after 6 months. In other words, the city has the opportunity to basically cancel it. Are we anywhere near that? Are we past that? Has that been discussed? Or where are we at on that?
Commissioner Behnke, that has been discussed, and the building official just took a look at this again, and everything is still consistent with when the permit was approved. Depending on when they actually come in to pick up the permit, there may or may not be some minor changes that take place, with building code.
Sure.
But as far as, if today they were able to come in and pick up that permit, everything would be fine and they could proceed.
Okay. Well, and I don't mean it from a code standpoint. I'm just saying that if you leave a permit unpicked up, it can go stale. In other words, the city could say you have to reapply.
Yes, and we have worked with the applicant for that. So, yes, this is definitely something where they have kept us apprised of,
Okay, good.
what's going on, and that's where we're at with the permit.
I think two more things then. There was a comment in the PUD details, and that was considering the condition, the staff cannot recommend allowing the dome to be used for another season. Was that a physical condition or the aesthetic condition or both?
That was the aesthetic condition with the soiled,
Sure.
soil exterior.
And then from staff standpoint, the work that's been done on cleaning it is adequate?
I think that it's better, that would be something for Planning Commission and Council to consider, and you certainly have the purview of taking a look at the ordinance and kind of the standards, and if you'd like to recommend another year for the use, we do have the approval conditions available for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Other questions? Commissioners, other questions of staff? Commissioner Levy, I'm sorry.
What was just said in terms of the durability or the condition of the dome, is it safe? Has the engineering department looked at it to say that it's still a viable dome to use, even though it was dirty?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Levy. What occurs every year when the temporary dome is used is they do need to file a building permit for that temporary dome, and it's inspected at that point in time for occupancy and whatnot. So we don't anticipate any issues, but that will take place if this is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Commissioners, do you have, we'll bring the applicant up and then I'll have the public hearing. So
That's it.
why don't you, Ms. Tanner, Ms. Carter, why don't you step up and give us your, I know you've been here before, but give us your name and address for the record.
Hi,
And
Tanis Carter, 18275 Kingsway Path,
Okay.
Lakeville.
thanks for coming this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Commissioners, do you have specific questions for the applicant? I guess we could start off with you giving us, I guess, a little bit of background, what happened and kind of what the goal is for next year.
Yeah, thank you. Deb was correct in saying that we did anticipate the dome to be discarded and to be put in the dumpsters along with the old turf and then start construction. The underwriting process has taken longer, obviously, than I anticipated. And I'm in the final stages of underwriting and then made the decision that I just couldn't wait any longer because it is a seasonal business and we make the bulk of our money in 6 months. And there was no option but to put the dome up again because that is a big part of Soccer Blast's revenue. So my dome specialist who comes in every year, fall and spring, to put it up and take it down, came and did all the necessary repairs to it. And then, of course, then we were left with the lovely stains on it, which we spent the last 4 days with a crew power washing, and then put it up today to take pictures for you.
I did drive by this afternoon and they had part of it inflated and they were power washing the piece on the ground this afternoon, but that was about 3 o'clock. I noticed that they were
Yeah.
trying to get it cleaned off, so. Ms. Garros, while the applicant's still up here, so I want to clarify the process a little bit from what Commissioner Levy asked. The process going forward would, this would be another amendment to the PUD that was originally enacted, and then I think we extended it. And then we did not extend it this last time because we were gonna build the building. So this would just be a single year extension through the, if you could bring the,
Yes, as far as the,
That one.
through May. And so so before the building could be occupied today, the city staff will ensure that there's no safety issues with
correct.
the
if-
structure.
Yes, correct. Mr. Chair, the applicant would merely just submit their building permit for the temporary dome, and it's more an issue of having I believe the building official and the fire marshal go out and just take a look to make sure that everything is, meets code. It's something that's done on an annual basis, very short-term duration, and as I indicated, their building permit, for the actual building itself is still valid and underway, but they do need this so that they can operate and have their facility open for this year.
Okay. And then the process would be that this PUD expires on May 6th, and then everything else would be in place from a standpoint of the dome being removed from the property.
Correct. If you were to apply the conditions that have been applied to the past extensions, which are these pretty much that are shown up here with the exception that we did change the date to May 6th of 2017. The last one actually expired, I believe, May 8th of 2016.
Okay, okay. Anything else you'd like to give the commission? Other comments, or?
No.
Okay.
Other
All
than,
right.
other than I wish that we were in the final stages of putting the building up.
Okay.
But,
And I wish that too. Yeah.
yes.
And so just from a clarification, the building's safe, this is strictly an aesthetics thing, because the picture was pretty, the picture in our background was pretty disturbing from a standpoint of would it even be safe? And so I just want to make sure that we had
Yes.
some clarity.
That would be reviewed at the time that they go out for the inspection for the
Okay.
dome, once it's up and.
Right. And also my, the dome specialist who comes twice a year, he also said that if you would need anything written from him about his expertise on the dome, he does this, flies around the country and does this all the time, been doing it for 25 years, he'd be able to,
I think we have our faith in our building inspectors. So
of course.
yeah, we can do that. Commissioner Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to be clear from staff, if the dome is safe. I'm leaning towards recommending another year, okay? But I want to be sure if I do that this dome is safe.
Commissioners, what would happen is the applicant would file their building permit for the dome, and then it would go out and be inspected. What the inspectors are going to look at is looking at the information that Ms. Carter had indicated, you know, that she has had a specialist out there, it is okay, and they would go ahead and issue it, so.
Chair, follow up to
Yes.
that. So there is no application for this temporary use for this next 180 days. Am I right? You said that she will have to file.
Yes, there will need to be, they have a building permit approved for the permanent building.
Yes.
But for the temporary dome, that is a separate permit.
And that has not been filed.
Correct.
Therefore, Mr. Chair, are we correct to recommend to the city council one way or the other if there is no application?
In the past, Planning Commission and Council have recommended or approved the PUDs subject to these same conditions. The permit is always something that they need to meet. They do need to come in for a permit. You would not be how can I say it? There would not be an issue if the Planning Commission were to recommend approval, Council were to approve, and then we get to the building permit and there's some problem.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, other questions of the applicant? Commissioner Levy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your underwriting process, how confident are you that it's going to be complete?
Well, actually, Commissioner, that's a completely separate thing from the information that's in front of us today. We are, whether she builds the building or not, we're just at this point extending this particular building. And at that point, if the final building isn't built, then there would have to be another extension at some point, or something else would be replaced. But right now, our piece is not the other, because that's already been in front of the Planning Commission and we've already voted on it.
Okay.
Okay? Other questions, though? Okay.
Actually, Chair. Deb, this refers to the occupancy limits of the 2004 PUD.
Yes.
Would there be any need to reference the 2015 PUD in terms of the
I don't believe so.
as it'll follow up behind this?
The 2004 PUD also included the ability, in addition to soccer, to allow them to have special events, and that occupancy was limited in, at that point, to no more than 450 occupants, and that is based on the amount of parking that the applicant has available. So I do not believe that there would be an issue
Okay.
at this point with just approving it with the similar conditions.
And then there was nothing in the August 5th, 2015 regarding the disposition of the existing dome? No, I don't think.
Just that it would expire as of May 2016.
Okay, thank you.
I don't remember anything based on that, but I have slept and eaten a couple times since then.
Yeah,
so.
just a few.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, and at this point, I will open the public hearing and ask anyone in the audience that would like to step up and give us their thoughts. This would be the time. Seeing no one in the audience, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, your pleasure.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners,
Mr. Chair, I have to recuse myself from the vote for business relationship with the applicant.
Thank you. Forgot about that.
Wasn't sure I was gonna sneak that in.
I apologize. I knew that and I forgot
Got
it.
here late, so that's
I saw.
Okay, Mr.
Commissioner
Chair,
Singh.
Commissioners, I would move that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council approval of the PUD amendment to application to use the fabric dome for another winter season. And, we have 180 days, expiration being May 6, 2017.
Thank you, Commissioner Singh.
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Behnke. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. That'll go in front of the city council on, obviously, as you know, November 7th. Thank you. Good luck with the new building. Have a good day. That brings us to item number 4 on our agenda this evening. You are staying, Ms. Garros, right? You're not leaving? Public hearing application for Kraemer Mining and Materials, KMM, for a planned unit development amendment and floodplain conditional use permit to construct a building and relocate the existing wash plant and crushing plant. The quarry is located at 1020 Cliff Road. Ms. Dean, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. The Kraemer Mine and Quarry is located just west of I-35W, south of the Minnesota River, and north of Cliff Road. As you can see from the slide here, the property is zoned I-2, and it's also a planned unit development. Covers the entire, basically, acreage of the quarry. The site is surrounded by our Gateway Industrial Medium and Gateway Industrial High zoning districts. This just gives you an overall aerial view of the site and general operations of the facility. I do want to point out this was most recently reviewed by the Planning Commission and Council in 2016. March of 2016, KMM received approval to move their meander line or their quarry line further west, and also provided some end-use plans as well as trail concepts and future end-use plans for redevelopment opportunity adjacent to I-35W on the eastern portion of their own property. So the proposal before you today, again, it is a plan unit development amendment, and there's also the interim, I'm sorry, not interim, there's also the floodplain conditional use permit request. So the PUD portion would cover basically the movement of the crushing and wash plant operations that are located in the blue on the eastern portion of the site. Eventually that would move over to the west to the floor of the quarry. And the other proposal is for a 5,000 square foot building that would house storage and equipment related to the crushing and mining operations. That would also be located on the floor of the quarry. This overview gives you an idea of the floodplain. Basically, a majority of the quarry is within what we call our flood fringe area of the city. Specific requirements do pertain to that area. Plans that are, or proposals that are within that area are also reviewed by the Department of Natural Resources and are sent to a consultant for review and comment. The crushing and wash plant operations, as well as the building, are located within that area. As part of the proposal, staff is recommending that the applicant meet the requirements of the city code and continue to work with the DNR for any permitting requirements. City staff is confident that they'll be able to meet those requirements. This gives you an overview, an elevation, sort of a cross-section of the 5,000 square foot building. It is a engineered fabric building. I would call it semi-permanent in nature. It is intended to last a long time yet. As quarry operations move further west, we do envision that this will get moved, again, further west as the applicant moves forward. This is a photo example of what the engineered fabric structure building would look like. I do also want to point out that in our I2 zones, we do have specific architectural material requirements. This obviously would not meet that requirement, but because staff felt it was temporary, somewhat temporary in nature and could be moved, also that it will not be seen from public view because it's on the floor of the quarry, that we felt this was acceptable. So that is part of the PUD request. That would be a PUD deviation. Staff does recommend approval of the request. We do have a few conditions that I'd like to walk through. The fabric building, crushing and wash plant facility be removed 1 year after the quarry's discontinued or at its completion date. That's consistent with what we've done for Sunstone, for example, neighboring property, I think, also associated with the quarry project. Basically, prior to any building permit issuance, we want to make sure that any flood-proofing measures are met. And it's outlined in our city code, these specific requirements, as well as the applicant would be working with our building official to ensure that these requirements are met. Third condition, the floodplain conditional use permit would be contingent upon DNR approval. The DNR did receive the plans and has made preliminary comments from a staff level. Ultimately, if this does get approved, they will receive documentation of city approval and provide additional weigh-in. Our fire department did, if you look to the report, did have some additional questions regarding exiting and egress for compliance with the code. Again, staff is confident that they'll be able to meet these requirements. Pretty standard review. And the final condition, that any previous conditions from previous PUDs, CUPs, and IUPs are basically carried over in full force and effect. With that, again, staff recommends approval. We do have representatives from KMM here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Commissioners, questions you have for staff? Commissioner Levy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So everything that I see from 35 is going to kind of disappear down into the hole? Is that what I'm hearing?
Essentially, Chair, members of the commission, eventually, yes, the crushing and wash plant equipment will move further into the quarry floor. From a staff standpoint, that's a great move in the positive direction to their final end-use plan. It'll also allow additional opportunity for redevelopment to occur adjacent to I-35W. We're hoping that it also cuts down on dust that occurs within the area as well by moving it to the quarry floor.
You just mentioned redevelopment, or I think that was the word you used, in the existing location of those facilities. is there a plan for that in place that is gonna happen, or is that often when the quarry is all done?
So the quarry has what they would call an end-use redevelopment plan. It's pretty general in nature right now. As far as the city, we also have plans. This is within our Minnesota River Quadrant, where we have concepts, again, very conceptual at this point, and that's something that we have an eye towards, certainly with our comprehensive plan update, what this area might look like in the future.
My question is more, how, are we waiting till the quarry is gone to do this, or are we looking at possibly doing this on a step-by-step basis before the quarry is gone, when these facilities are moved down?
Commissioner Levy, I think the answer to that question would be is that if the crushing plant is moved, it opens up the opportunity for some additional interim use on that space,
That's what
much
I'm getting
like
at.
we have done in other parts of the Minnesota River Quadrant. We wouldn't anticipate final development until the quarry is reached at the end of its business life.
And the applicant is here if they wish to address any specific questions.
Thank you.
Other questions for staff? You're a quiet group this evening. Okay.
Thorough staff.
Commissioners, would you like to speak to the applicant, or shall I move ahead to the public hearing?
I don't have any questions, it's very
Okay.
clear.
This is a public hearing, so at this point, I will open the public hearing and ask anyone in the audience that would like to speak, certainly can. If I see no one coming, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners, your pleasure.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Behnke.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the application of Kraemer Mining and Manufacturing for Planning Development Amendment and Floodplain Conditional Use Permit to construct a building and relocate the existing wash plant and crushing plant for the quarry located at 1020 Cliff Road, subject to the following 5 conditions as written by staff.
Thank you, Commissioner Behnke. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Walter. All in favor say aye. Opposed say nay, and the motion carried. Do you have the,
Was it Workman or?
I think it was working.
I thought, okay, I
It was a
apologize.
toss-up.
Yeah, I caught Commissioner Walter, but Commissioner
Start
Workman.
using a southern drawl next time.
I'm usually
You can
much
have the
better.
second. You
I'm
had to
usually
recuse on
much
that
better
one,
at
so.
that, so the motion carries. Thank you. That will go in front of the city council on November 7th. Thank you. Appreciate you coming in this evening. That brings us to the final item on our agenda this evening. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely,
Who seconded
Commissioners.
that motion?
The motion was by Commissioner
Yeah.
Behnke and then second by Commissioner Workman. That's the one that I missed.
Workman
I thought,
recused himself, didn't he?
no, that was on the
the
soccer
previous
blast.
one.
Previous, previous.
Thank you. I had mine.
Commissioners, any updates?
Never have another WO.
No updates from the commissioners?
I just have the.
Deb's handing out some stuff.
Yep, have the tentative draft agenda for your next meeting. Also, we did receive word back from the Cub Foods Development Project, and they've withdrawn their application at this point, rather than getting to a point where we would have to recommend a denial because it's been continued so many times. And we had indicated that to the applicant too, that it would be better if they withdrew it, because if it is denied just based on lack of information or something of that sort, you have a 6-month period that you have to wait to reapply, and we didn't want them to get caught up in that, so.
So we think there's a possibility they'll be back.
Hopefully, yes.
Okay,
Yep,
okay.
hopefully, yes. The other item, just for all the commissioners, we have our next comprehensive plan meeting coming up on November 7th, and that starts at,
From 6 PM to 8 PM at the maintenance facility.
and really need to have all the commissioners be there, because this is really the plan of the planning commission, so would rather have everybody there and involved, so that you're familiar with what's going on, and they're gonna start discussing land use concepts, so.
Great.
When is the 2-day session? with staff
We had that last week.
last week?
Yep, Monday
Okay.
and Tuesday, so.
All right, thank you. With that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Commissioner Singh, second by Commissioner Behnke. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you very much. Have a safe drive home, everyone, this evening. I appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah.